much. Oh my gosh, she's just small, but she's doing so much.
Hello, everyone, and once again, I'm here with another of my wonderful guests. Maybe let's my guests introduce themselves so that we get to know them.
Definitely. Thanks, Indy. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaluki Paul. I like to call myself a stubborn optimist and a proud son of the African soil because Africa is our home and we need to take care of her.
You had that introduction, and that clearly tells you what we are up to. So, Paul, so nice to meet you today.
Nice to meet you there.
Yeah, and can you start by telling us what the Mazingira Day, what does it mean specifically to you as Kaluki Paul?
This day for me is a reflection of to what extent humanity is doing or not doing to take care of the environment, but also an inspiration into what future we can envision for both the current and the future generation.
Okay. When you mention the current and the future generation, why do you think, like specifically, we Kenyans should pay more attention to, environment and climate change matters right now more than ever?
I mean, just to give you a statistic, sometimes in 2024 we had one of the serious floods in the country, and actually Nairobi was hit, and serious dozens of people, died and lost their lives. Property was destroyed, and I just feel if we do not take care of the environment, we are not just harming ourselves in the present generation, but also negatively impacting the future. So it's really important that we think about why it matters to protect the environment. One, we need to protect the environment for our food systems. We need to protect the environment because we need to survive. We need to protect nature because just every other life depends on it. Think of the big animals to the smallest insects, and all these have a correlation to our lives. So really taking care of it has a cascading effects, and to me that is why it's important to think of both the now and the future.
Okay. And from your own perspective, which environmental challenge do you think Kenya is really facing?
Well, I don't think there is one particular. There's quite a number of them that we are grappling with, and of course climate crisis being the biggest of all, and it's affecting everyone, even in the unborn, But there's also plastic. I mean, we burn our plastic, but we still see plastics everywhere. Even the fuses we make for our clothes, I mean, it's also a result or a pipeline of plastics. So that's another, challenge I see. We are grappling a lot. Our rivers are literally choking with plastics. The food we are eating is infested with plastics. So yes, our bloodstream has, plastics in it. But there's also the question of food insecurity. You wonder why we produce so much food for export, yet our own people are suffering. We cannot grow enough to feed our population. So for me, these three challenges are key crises that we need to talk about: climate change, plastic, and food security.
Would also help in handling matters to do with mental health awareness.
Yeah, it could. And one of the reasons is, we get free oxygen from the trees, right? And the more oxygen you have in your brain, the more clear you can think. Now, if you go to a place, again, I'll use the example of Nairobi City, think about how many cars are there emitting exhaust fumes that are full of, greenhouse gases. These greenhouse gases go to our brain. They clog our brain, they clog our, respiratory system, they clog our eyesight and everything. But if you juxtapose that and come to a forest, you have peace like you've never imagined. So yes, I do believe such spaces will actually create, there's a serenity, there's a peace. Just listening and, to the birds, the monkeys, and different, wildlife going about gives a sense of peace that I believe we as a country need to invest more in and allow our citizens to access these spaces, if not freely, at a subsidized fee that will allow the people to have a sense of belonging, but also to, like I said, vent out. We have so many things in this city, so we just need to go and vent out at nature. And so shout out to Alana. She's doing an amazing job as a kids advocate, climate justice activist, and really even our platform that is a podcast highlighting different change makers' voices and what people are doing in the climate space she needs to be given serious attention. We need to focus and support her to amplify her, because if one child can do so much, imagine what she can do if we support her from the government, the non-profit sector, and even media. She is a star. Let us help make her, not to make her famous, but to just appreciate the work that she is leading.
Now that you've mentioned, because Alana, that also brings me to the youth and all that. I remember some time back, you activists went out there and you wanted the youth to also be included in this climate change talks and the COPs and all that. And the youth were included. Yeah. And I remember it even began when we had the inauguration Africa Climate Summit. So do you think the inclusion of the youth has sort of like brought some change when it comes to environmental and climate change championship?
I'll partly say yes, and noting that youth is also a very broad term, and youth is always like, it's like this vicious circle. Today I'm youth, tomorrow I'm not, but then I still support youth and everything. And even as a youth who is 18, I'm a younger youth than a youth who is 35 years, is per the AU definition of African youth. So back to your point, I feel having young people have a seat at the table is very important. First, not as a favor, but as a right that they deserve, because morally, young people are actually forming over 60% of Africa's population, and Kenyan population, definitely, they are the people being impacted by the worst, impacts of the climate crisis. So if we are not allowing them to have a space at the table, we are missing on the point. Remember, they are young, they are catalytic, but also creative. So we need that creativity on the table. They are more tech savvy, right? They're very good with digital platforms. So we need them to communicate climate science, climate information, climate policy. So I'm seeing a lot of awareness coming from the youth movement, and also respect also coming. And even though we know the funding has not been much to some extent, we are seeing an incremental, a number of funds, micro grants coming to youth, and I feel that is as a result of this, space that young people are now claiming, not actually being given, they are claiming. And for me, that is important. Power is not given, it's taken, and we are taking it.
I'm glad to hear that. Now that we are taking power when it comes to environment and climate change, Kaluki, tell Kenyans something about, caring for the environment as we approach the Mazingira Day. What would you tell Kenyans?
For Kenya, happy Mazingira Day 2025. Let's make it count. Remember, nature has everything to satisfy every man's need, but definitely not to satisfy every man's greed. Let's stop the gluttonous, greedy nature and think of nature as our mother. If it's planting trees, if it's growing organic and regenerative crops, if it is taking care of the soil, if it's taking your family out for a nature walk, whatever simple activity you can, just make it count and celebrate it. You don't have to do something big to have an impact on nature. So whatever is small, go for it. It can result in that big impact. So all the best, and let's make this year's Mazingira Day count, and let's make every day Mazingira Day indeed.
Thank you so much, Kaluki, and thank you to all our viewers. Now you all know why I indeed put on green. So let's make sure we have a better environment, just as green as my outfits.